again, everybody. Welcome back to Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast, and occasionally X-Files podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in Ghostwood Forest, still hiding out in my little cabin in the woods, hiding out from the coronavirus. But thankfully, I'm here once again talking to my wonderful co-host and soon-to-be, hopefully, fellow Dune watcher, if we ever get the movie, Xan Sprouse.
I so hope so.
How you doing, Xan?
I'm doing all right, Charles. At least we are hiding out. You know,
Yes, we
all
are.
you people who aren't hiding out, you need to reevaluate.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about trying to be the responsible ones.
Trying to be the responsible ones, yes. That's what we're trying to do here in our respective fortresses of solitude.
Yeah, and trying not to get burned in the process of trying to be the responsible ones while everybody else is being irresponsible. It's almost kind of like the ant and the grasshopper fable in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Or for those of you who haven't watched the movie A Bug's Life, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So we're just hoping that everybody starts being more responsible and getting those numbers down, and so we can get to some semblance of normal life. So fingers crossed.
Speaking of getting burned, stay safe, Portland.
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go almost there for a California wildfire thing, but...
There's that, too.
Yeah.
It's just the entire...
You mentioned burn, so, that's where my head went.
The entire West Coast is apparently on fire.
On fuego. Yes.
Yeah. Bye-bye, California. It's
very nice. Very nice.
Unfortunately, what's going to happen, and it's...
Otisburg? It's just a little bitty place.
Oh, Miss Tessmacher, she's got her own place. California has things like sequoia trees that require controlled burns to survive, but it's just a dumpster fire of a year, so now everything is just going awry. Yeah,
apparently, it's the no match for gender reveal parties.
The hell is wrong with people?
Right?
The hell.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Do we need to bring Smokey Bear costumes back into school? Smokey Bear, shirtless but with jeans, Smokey the Bear, to tell us who can prevent forest fires.
Only you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
See, I learned. I paid attention. You can
Charles,
too.
We had Smokey the Bear as kids and Mr. Yuck, so we don't blow things up in the forest and we don't eat Tide Pods.
Funny how life works, right?
We understand how things work around here.
Yeah.
But yes, stay safe, California. Stay safe, Portland. Stay safe, everybody who is being affected by fire, smoke, debris, anything. Just please, stay safe.
And hopefully Lex Luthor won't be sending a nuclear missile to strike the San Andreas Fault.
I really hope nobody has to change their address to Casa del X or Marina del X.
Marina del X, that's it. Yeah.
Marina del X.
That's it. But so fingers crossed. Or at least, if that happens, then maybe we get a certain blue Boy Scout to fly out and save the day. Fingers crossed, because we could certainly use him now. Just saying.
I know we could, Charles. I wish he were here.
All right. But in the meantime, as we try to salvage what's left of this planet we call Earth, we're going to talk here at episode 83, we're going to be talking Shapes, which is the third in our series of Twin Peaks actors who have guest starred on The X-Files. And it's a great day to do it because today is September 10th, 2020, the 27th anniversary of The X-Files, as we're recording this. So we're recording this on...
Is it really?
We're recording this on X-Files Day, everybody. How cool is that, right?
Pretty amazing.
It's nice how the schedule kind of was a little serendipitous in that regard, I think.
That's awesome.
Yep. So, Shapes...
What's the name of the first episode? I forget now. I can't think of it.
Well, Pilot, really, because that's all...
It's just Pilot?
It's just Pilot, yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a cool name. Or if you wanted to call it The X-Files.
Pilot works for me.
Yeah. Or like I did when we did our review, I titled our episode, The X-Files: Pilot.
Okay, that works.
Because Pilot, doesn't really distinguish enough. So
I think it should be. I think I'm going to call it from now on. Welcome home, Spooky Mulder. That's my shorthand title for it.
That's good. That's good. So we're talking Shapes, which is the 19th episode of The X-Files Season 1. So this will be our last in the freshman season of The X-Files. Aired way back on April Fool's Day, April 1st of 1994.
Did it though, Charles? Just kidding.
Or did it? Yeah, exactly.
That's my April Fool's Day joke.
Yeah, exactly. This could be a complete April Fool's, only months early, 6 months early, or
We just made this episode
8 months
up.
early.
It doesn't really exist.
It's all in your imagination.
Yep.
So this one was written by Marilyn Osborne, who never wrote for any other X-Files ever again after this point. Just the one.
Okay.
But she's also written for Space Above and Beyond. This is a show
So she's part of the Morgan and Wong cult.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And also ended up writing for The Following, if you remember that show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, that was a short-lived, I think it was 3 seasons for The Following or something, but...
I want to say something like that, yeah.
But my mother-in-law, Nora, is a big fan of that show, so...
Okay.
But this one was also directed by David Nutter, who directed our previous story that we just talked about last time, Beyond the Sea. And so we don't have to go through his resume again, but of course he's done Game of Thrones and a bunch of superhero TV pilots and Millennium and other things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, starring David Duchovny as Fox Mulder, and Gillian Anderson is, of course, Dana Scully.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Dana Scully.
One of the greatest TV characters ever, in my opinion.
I love Dana Scully. Yeah, I'm a medical doctor, but I'm going to solve crimes and save the world, too. No big deal.
Yeah. And kind of give birth to an alien-human hybrid, or... Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Lou said alien-human hybrid, and...
Yeah, we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, no big deal.
But 20 years later, we'll figure it out again.
Yeah. But this time, as one of our, since this is, like I said, we're talking Twin Peaks actors on X-Files, guest cast includes, of course, the great Michael Horse as Sheriff Charles Tskany, no relation.
Mm-hmm. That shouldn't be hard to remember that.
Michael Horse, very famous for playing Deputy Chief Tommy Hawkhill on Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
He was also, if you're an 80s geek like yours truly, he played Tonto in The Legend of the Lone Ranger, which I just watched recently, thanks to IMDb TV.
Fantastic.
Once I found out, I've been looking for this movie and couldn't find it on regular streaming services, but I did find it on IMDb TV. So there's a commercial here and there, but not too bad.
That's not too bad. Who plays the Lone Ranger?
That is Clinton Spilsbury, who did nothing else after that.
I was going to say, I'm sorry I asked because I have nothing to add to that.
I understand. Yeah, that's no problem. But it's a great little film because it's got Christopher Lloyd in it.
Okay.
And I'm trying to think who else is in that movie. I mean, geez, I just watched it. I should remember, right? I'm trying to think of the actor's name, and I'm blanking on it. But he plays Ulysses S. Grant. Oh, what's the guy's name? I can't remember. But
what else is he in? Maybe
I can look it up here on IMDb real quick.
Are there any cameos like Jay Silverheels or anybody like that?
No, they weren't. It wasn't the original Superman movie, or where you had cameos by Noel Neal and Kirk Allen. But Jason Robards. That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, heck yeah!
Yeah, Jason Robards plays Ulysses S. Grant in that. So it's got a couple of great actors in that.
Run that baby.
In addition to Michael Horse, so that should be enough to watch, right?
That's enough right there.
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, it's the best Lone Ranger movie ever made.
All right.
Even though it's kind of cheesy, but...
It's not hard.
It's light years better than the Johnny Depp film.
I wanted to like that one so bad.
Yeah. This one at least is... It's faithful, and it's a solid movie. A solid 90-minute movie.
Nice.
But Michael Horse has also been in Passenger 57, the Wesley Snipes film.
Heck yeah.
And he was also on the Roswell TV series, the Helen Wills TV series.
Claws.
Yep. And he's done a bunch of other, some voice work and I think he did some vocal work for the Young Justice animated series. And some other things. I'm trying to remember what. But so obviously, he's had a long career. Mm-hmm. And it's just great to see him here after Twin Peaks, the original Twin Peaks.
Yeah, Twin Peaks is one of those shows where if I ever saw that somebody was in something else after Twin Peaks, I'd be like, oh, I need to see that because so-and-so's in it. And Michael Horse is no exception.
Yeah. And he's just all around just a cool character actor.
He's just a cool dude, too.
Yeah. He's got a presence, this guy. I wish I had a presence like that.
I wish I could deliver my words as cool and confident as he can, and so seriously and so awesome. Yeah, he's quite a presence.
Yeah, he's got he's very kind of almost a very calm, laid back demeanor. I think, in a lot of his roles. Like kind of,
Yep.
especially because, they're doing, he plays a lot of Native American roles because, hey, he's Native American. So it's natural, but he's really good at that. He has that kind of stoic presence.
He does, yes.
And it's very refreshing, I think. Ty Miller plays Lyle Parker, our poor little Manitou in this one.
Yeah, poor guy.
He's been on episodes of The Young Riders, Growing Pains, and Without a Trace. I know you're a big fan of Growing Pains, so I thought I'd mention that.
I'm a big fan of Growing Pains.
I thought you were.
I was in 1986.
Okay, well, I didn't say right now, but but you've talked about it. Yeah.
Yes. It was nice to have.
I didn't mean like a
show.
diehard fan, but
yeah, it was nice to have a show that featured a nerdy female.
Okay.
You didn't see that. You didn't see that terribly often.
You mean in Carol? Yeah.
Meaning Carol Seaver, yes.
Yes, Carol Seaver. All right. Donnelly Rhodes plays Jim Parker, Lyle's father. And this is a character actor who's done some pretty notable things over the years. I first got to know him because I was a fan of the TV series Soap back in the day.
Oh yeah,
where he played Dutch Leitner on Soap, and
he was the Soap in so long.
Oh, I love that show. It was airing on, I think, MeTV for a while there, on Saturdays or Sundays or something like that.
I remember it was on Comedy Central when I was in college. It was excellent.
It was an excellent show. I loved it growing up, and as a kid watching it, even though it was on late at night, I stayed up to watch it. And Dutch played. Dutch was this character who was like a convict who helped Chester escape from prison after he was sentenced for killing off Peter Campbell, and then he ends up hooking up with Chester's daughter Eunice and the Tates. So I thought it was pretty good.
Yep.
He also played Grandpa Flynn in Tron Legacy recently. So he was essentially Flynn's dad.
Oh, right. You don't see much of him.
You don't see much of him. It's more of a cameo, but
I forgot all about that. Yeah,
he was in it. He was also in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, a little notable film you may have heard of. And he was also not too long ago.
He can't swim.
I know, right? Not too long ago, he was in one of the CW crossovers for their Arrowverse TV show. So he was on episodes of The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. He's also been on episode of Smallville and way back in The New Adventures of Wonder Woman back in the 70s.
Oh, my good God.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I thought that was kind of cool. So Donnelly Rhodes, very cool to see him here as well. Renee Morisseau plays Gwen Goodensnake, and she turns up in another X-Files episode, Anasazi, but as a different character. There she plays Josephine Doan in that episode. Right.
She's the granddaughter, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, you mean in this episode, or are you talking about Anasazi?
Anasazi.
Yeah, Anasazi. I think she's the granddaughter, but that's a much better episode in my opinion. So, and then
you know me, I love comeuppance stories. So that one's that one's so good.
It is very good. Jimmy Herman plays Ish, and he was in Dances with Wolves, and in a completely opposite direction, he was also in The Crow Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, wow. Now, see, that one I did not see.
Right. Exactly. So. I don't think a lot of people did, but I was a fan of the original Crow, so I just thought I'd mention it. Mm-hmm. But, he was also in that.
Makes sense.
So that's our guest cast for this one. Trivia this time, we had... this episode was originally written after the suits over at Fox suggested that the series should have a more conventional type of monster. And
so werewolf.
Basically, yeah. So producers James Wong and Glenn Morgan started looking into Native American legends of the Manitou, which is the basis for this episode. Mm-hmm. And this episode also mentions the very first X-File case. That's
right.
Which was apparently initiated by J. Edgar Hoover in 1946. So apparently that must have been a werewolf case. So or something similar. And for those wondering about the actual Manitou legend, the Manitou is essentially an Algonquin term used to describe a spiritual life force that runs through the world. And some tribes, after being converted to Christianity, use the word to describe God. So the Manitou here has more in common, though, with a werewolf or a Wendigo, if you're familiar with that creature. So
Yes.
So I just thought I'd mention that, but yeah, it's not exactly faithful to how that term is supposed to be used. So a little creative license here.
They took some creative license in this. Yeah. It's
There's also some, like, in this one, and we can talk about this, but they've got like there's a funeral pyre in one scene, and apparently the Native Americans didn't do that.
Right.
So.
Right. So
just look kind of one of the things they thought looked cool, and they did it.
Yeah, and there are some issues. I have some issues with this episode for that very reason.
Okay,
but we can talk about that later.
All right. So let's get into our discussion a little bit. Start off the episode where we have Mulder and Scully traveling to Browning, Montana, to investigate the killing of a Native American man, Joseph Goodsnake, by local rancher Jim Parker. And
because they're having some quarrels about whose land ends where and whose cows can be on what land.
Exactly. So this dispute of the land is with a group called the Trigos, which don't exist. It's a fictional thing that the episode made up as well.
Yeah, that's a little strange too.
Yeah, it is, right? So let's just make up a Native American tribe and have them. Maybe they were afraid of being sued. I don't know what the deal was with that, but so Parker claims that he fired on a monstrous animal as opposed to a human, and Parker's son Lyle, however, has some scars that support this.
Right, but they're older scars, so something's been going down for a while.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how long.
Yeah,
things have been going on, but apparently it's been a while. So
right.
So they show up, and Scully decides that, well, at short range, for where Goodsnake was shot, it probably would have been impossible to mistake him for an animal.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mulder finds some tracks leading to an area.
Somebody's not on the level here, I don't think.
Yeah, slightly, right? Mm-hmm. So Mulder finds some tracks, and then we see in these footprints in the mud where, it starts off, changing from human to something else, something more animal.
Right.
And Scully's like, of course, being the skeptic, she's like, nah, no big deal, right? This just probably got cross-contaminated or something, I guess.
Tracks on tracks.
Tracks on tracks, yeah. So, but she ends up finding this, large chunk of human skin nearby.
Ooh.
Because that's just lying around. No big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's standard.
So, as far as Scully's concerned, she thinks the Parkers killed Goodsnake, but she knows that they couldn't have skinned him since there was, no signs of him being skinned anywhere on the body.
Right. So
where did the skin come from? Yeah. And that's essentially our X-file there.
That's our X-file. Yep.
Yeah. So in general, what did you make of this story?
I thought it was. I think I would have liked it a little bit better. It's a good story.
Yeah.
But I feel, and again, this is something I'm looking on with the present.
Yeah.
And hindsight being 2020. Hindsight is 2020 in the year 2020.
This is obviously the year to have hindsight, I guess.
Yeah, it's the year to have it because we have nothing else to do. It just sort of feels like white people wrote a story about weird stuff that was Native American, that was sort of this ambiguously Native American story, so they could do anything they wanted.
Yeah.
Because the North American indigenous tribes are vast in numbers.
Yes, they are.
There's thousands of tribes. There are thousands of stories and pieces of folklore and rituals and superstitions. So anything you present, I think, to your basic Fox watching suburban white audience,
Yeah.
they're going to swallow it. They're going to buy it. It's going to seem like, oh, it's Native American, so it's this oddly spiritual, natural thing.
Because they don't have any prior knowledge about this, so
they don't have any prior knowledge.
They naturally accept it. Yeah.
You know, you could have a PhD in North American Indigenous Studies and know nothing about 100 tribes.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much to know and so much to learn, and so many, because we're talking about North America here. So that means the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Large amount of people.
Yes.
Going all the way from, to the bottom of Mexico all the way up to Alaska. So there was a lot going on. And so there's something about this episode that feels a little bit facile, and I don't want to say racist, but I would want to say insensitive.
Yeah, but again, you have to keep in mind the time period.
I'm keeping in mind
because this was the
period.
90s. Now I'm not trying to excuse it, but just kind of just to keep it in perspective.
And I agree with you. They did some good things where because
they do talk about the FBI and
how
the
FBI were
how the Native Americans are pissed off about how they were treated during the whole Wounded Knee.
Right. They talk about Wounded Knee and on all the bad treatment. And if you notice, it's only like the bad guys that call them Indians, and they're otherwise called Native Americans.
Right. Exactly.
And in the 90s, if anybody remembers this, I remember it pretty well because Columbus had a mayor who was very adamant about not changing the term from Indian to Native American.
Yeah.
So in the 90s, you started to see that, wait a minute, we are calling massive, massive groups of people who have nothing in common other than the fact that they were here before the Spanish got here.
Yeah.
We're calling them all one big group of people, and it's a complete misnomer. So in an effort to try and
unify,
the fact just to be more sensitive to the fact we started using the term Native American as opposed to Indian, because Indian is incorrect.
Right.
The term Indian comes from the fact that Christopher Columbus thought that he was finding a passage to the east via the west, because they had no idea that North America was even here. So when he got here, he thought he was in India.
Right.
So that's why we have the term Indian. And so for like 500 years, we have this misnomer, and
it's only really in recent decades that we're finally addressing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, if you want to talk about a person's heritage, if you're close enough to a person to talk about their heritage, you need to be talking about what tribe they're from.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, is what tribe they're from, not that they're Native American. That's just that's such a broad brush because there's so many different tribes of people.
Yeah.
So
especially my own family. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
go right ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because my dad is part Cherokee, and my wife Lori is part Oglala Sioux.
Oh wow, okay.
So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, so even in Ohio, I remember doing reports on different I remember being in the third grade, and there were 30 of us, and we all were able to do a report on a different tribe from Ohio.
Yeah.
So there's not, just saying Indians as this dismissive, broad brush misnomer, broad term, I think is ridiculous. So the 90s. I will say that we are starting to see. In the 90s, we were starting to see a little bit more sensitivity to the fact that we have been using a misnomer for 500 years.
Yeah.
We're starting to see we're actually casting Native American actors in Native American roles.
Yeah, that's kind of a big deal. Yes.
That's a really, really big deal. Now, I will say that it is sort of interchangeable. You know, I've seen Michael Horse play different, someone from different tribes, but it's something.
Well, they've done it. They have done, actual Native Americans and Native American roles prior to this, though. I remember, when I talked about Tano and the Lone Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the 50s TV series, The Lone Ranger, they had Jay Silverheels playing Tano, who was Native American.
Right. He was Native North American. He was from Canada. Right. Yeah. But we also had people like Iron Eyes Cody who were complete and total frauds.
Yes.
So it was weird. This is a weird subject because the United States has a history of being total shitheels.
Yes.
To the indigenous people of this continent.
Right.
So it's sometimes hard for me to get interested in what feels like a conciliatory story.
Yeah.
Where you have these white people like, oh, let's write some crazy Native American thing and we'll make up our own, when they're so... Chris likes to talk about why Chris doesn't like the movie Titanic.
Okay.
And the reason he doesn't like it is because the Titanic is one of the most dramatic things that has ever happened. Why did they have to add a jewel heist? And that's kind of what this feels like.
Like the ship going down and it wasn't dramatic enough.
That's not enough. They have to add a jewel heist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's hilarious that on the most luxurious ocean liner in the history of ocean liners, they still find a way to have sex in the backseat of a car. So, but that being said, this sort of feels like that. There's hundreds of legends and folklore and stories and creatures that you could have taken from. Why make up your own? Just like, it's like you want to say, like, do a little research.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually come up with a real one. Teach some people some things. Maybe focus on a tribe that actually exists. Focus on a tribe that actually might have been at Wounded Knee. It just feels a little bit facile. However, all that being said, there's something there's things I like about this episode because, first of all, I like Michael Horse.
Yeah.
And there's something very Twin Peaksy about this episode. There are a lot of Twin Peaksy elements about how we have a murder mystery that the FBI has to come in and help us with. We have a murder mystery that's never really going to be solved because it's some other entity. It's not an actual...
There are supernatural overtones to this murder mystery.
There's supernatural overtones. This person is killed by a creature, not a murderer, So in Twin Peaks, even though we know that it's Leland Palmer that does the actual killing, it's because of Bob.
Right.
So there's never going to be any justice because you can't put Bob in jail. You can't put Bob in the electric chair.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then you have Michael Horse, who looks a lot like Deputy Hawk. He even has the same kind of jacket, similar colored police outfit.
Yeah, if you had noted, if you had taken a still from this episode and from an episode of Twin Peaks. With him,
you have to zoom in. You'd have to zoom in on the patches.
Right. You'd have to just really pay attention because, for one thing, and also the badges, because the
badges, the patches, all that stuff.
Yeah, because obviously, as Sheriff Tskany, he's got more of a traditional sheriff's badge that he's wearing, as opposed to like the kind of shield, the shield that he wears on Twin Peaks.
Right, and you also have a situation where the FBI wants to come in and perform an autopsy, but the people of the town want there to be a funeral.
Yeah, so exactly.
That whole scene where they were arguing about this is not what we do, this is not what our people won't stand for this. This is not how we do things. The whole time I'm thinking to myself, you can have a funeral any old time. You dig a hole, you plant a coffin. I, however, cannot perform these tests next year, next week, next month, or tomorrow. I must perform them now. So if you wouldn't mind returning to your porch rockers and resuming whittling, gentlemen, I have a lot of cutting and pasting to do.
Rest in peace, Miguel Ferrer.
Rest in peace, Miguel Ferrer. So
that was a lovely tribute you just did.
Thank you. That was and if that wacko puppet ever lays a finger on me again, he'll be at the near Salvation Army barrack, sucking wind at the bottom of an orphan's barrel before the sweat dries on your hand. Do I make myself clear? I have to say that whenever I possibly can because I cannot tell you how long I practiced to be able to do that.
And you do it so well.
That is that line to me is what I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion and the memory systems of this R2 unit is to Carrie Fisher. It's words that don't make sense together that you really had to practice and you'll never forget them. Proper copper coffee pot. So I did like the parallels between Twin Peaks and this episode, and again, it's always a joy to see Michael Horse. So, yeah, I mean, what about you, Charles?
Well, it's kind of interesting because when we talked Beyond the Sea, we talked about how much it was almost like a Twin Peaks episode.
Yeah,
and here we have another one, Shapes. So I think especially in this first season, I think they were still almost trying really hard to capture that Twin Peaks audience. So they almost were writing stories.
We were still adrift. We'd been adrift for like 3 years looking for something, and a lot of us landed on the X-Files.
Yeah, so it's almost like, well, we know that Twin Peaks had an audience. The show's not around anymore. So that I think I don't know if they were doing this, consciously or subconsciously, but it does seem like there was at least an attempt to appeal to those fans here in this first season, especially until they started concentrating on their own mythos.
Right.
Yeah. This first season they were kind of like more, it's more of a general, like, okay, 1 week we're going to do this, 1 week we're going to do that. And there's not a lot of serialized storytelling going on.
Right. And personally, I am a bigger fan of the Monster of the Week episodes than I am of the mythology episodes.
And I'm the reverse.
You're the reverse.
I like the mythology. I really dug the mythology. Although I do like the monsters episodes, but I get really engrossed in the mythology story.
I remember getting engrossed in the mythology story, but similar to I'm the same way with the TV show Supernatural.
Yeah.
I prefer the Monster of the Week episodes, where it felt like after a while the mythology sort of took too long.
Yeah.
And as this is nothing against William B. Davis, but why hadn't somebody murdered the Cancer Man by like season 5?
Thank you. Yes.
He stayed alive way too long is all I'm saying.
I would argue that they did, but he cloned himself. So
that makes sense.
They were working on that, so it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
That would not surprise me either. It's like if anybody was going to die in the first season, I would have rather it been him and then kept Deep Throat around.
Yeah. And now apparently he's living in the body of certain Nick Pizzagone.
Evidently.
Our own smoking man.
He's a much nicer guy, and he would never have an affair with the wife of the guy whose child he abducted. Nick would never do that.
Or would he? Dun dun dun.
Or would he? Maybe that's what he wants us to believe.
Yeah, exactly. You got to do this one.
Bomb.
All right, I couldn't resist.
Mr. Rooney, how are you? I was wondering if it would be possible for my sister to bring home any assignments for my classes that I might need.
Ed, Ferris Bueller's on line 2.
Hook her up, Buttercup.
Bong, bong. All right.
I think I owe you an apology. Well, I should say you do.
Well, I should say you do. Yes.
A family member dies, and you insult me. What the hell is the matter with you anyway? Yeah, that's my...
I want to have a word with you, by God.
On second thought, we don't have time to talk right now. We'll get together soon and we'll have lunch. Ow! All right, that's enough of my Alan Ruck impression.
Yeah.
So let's. So Charles, your thoughts on this episode?
So
please continue.
My thoughts on this one. I'm with you. I mean, I love the Twin Peaks vibe on this one. It is a pretty obvious, it's a werewolf homage, in a lot of ways, especially, and we'll talk about this when we talk closer more about the Manitou. There's some American Werewolf in London homage in this, with the transformation, especially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But in the 90s when I originally watched this, obviously you didn't pay as much attention to the Native American thing. At least, me being suburban white kid growing up watching this. We were not. Yeah, we just didn't think about that stuff back then.
No.
even though it was important to think about. But now obviously, yeah, with time and the years passing, and you have that kind of cultural evolution that you look
Mm-hmm.
back and you have a little bit more awareness about what's going on, and you're kind of like,
Right.
oh wow, and
Because when you're kids, you only know to seek out what you know is there.
yeah,
And when you're not, you really have to get out into the world and start seeing other people and learning about how other people live and how other things are to even know that you need to look that stuff up.
yeah, it's kind of like
You know?
getting outside your own bubble.
Yeah, getting outside,
and interacting with people that aren't like you.
Right.
And I think if
Right.
we did that a lot more as a society, I think we would be much better off, personally.
I would agree with that. Yes,
So,
absolutely.
all right. Or maybe this just me because, hey, I watched a lot of Star Trek growing up. So,
Or the fact that you've met other people and
yeah,
they're cool and they have
exactly.
good food and they have interesting stories and they do interesting things for holidays, and it doesn't just have to be, the suburban world we grew up in,
Yeah.
Nothing necessarily wrong with the suburban world we grew up in. It's just not better than anybody else's, and we need to be able to.
Yeah.
I think as children we should be given the tools to look around a little bit more. But
Yeah.
we're victims of freaking redlining from the 30s, and we didn't even. It's just where our parents having to buy a house. It's all this systematic crap that
Yeah.
we're really trying to churn up right now. That makes you look back and say things like we were talking about earlier, Charles. Like, how did we get through school and never learn about Tulsa?
Yeah. And we talked about this right before the podcast that,
Yeah.
this stuff wasn't taught. Like the Tulsa Massacre wasn't taught when we were growing up.
And how would I know to look for that?
In
Like,
Ohio.
how would I be?
Right.
How would I be 16 years old and thinking, were there any predominantly black towns that were thriving in the 1930s?
So
Let's look that up.
So then, and naturally not being an expert on that subject,
Mm-hmm.
or not experiencing it firsthand, I didn't know about it. So I have to learn about it from watching Watchmen.
At least I learned about it,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There was recently an episode.
Don't tell me that TV can't be educational. I'm just saying.
Because TV is. Thank you very much. There was recently an episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver,
Mm-hmm.
where they were talking about what we do and what we don't teach in history class, and they had this. I don't remember where he was a teacher, but he was a teacher. He was a black man. He's like, no, I've heard that. Like, they don't even teach it in Tulsa.
You kind of
They don't even teach it.
You kind of broke up there a little bit. So.
It was his teacher. He said he was this black man. He was a teacher, and he said I would have heard about that if that happened in Tulsa. I'm from Tulsa. So they don't necessarily even teach about Tulsa in Tulsa,
which is a frightening concept, isn't it?
Which is a frightening concept.
Yeah, this is quite literally whitewashing history.
Literally whitewashing, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Completely.
But getting back to the episode, I obviously adore seeing Michael Horse here because, hey, it's like, oh, hey, it's almost like Deputy Hawk has his own spin-off show for
Deputy Hawk has
this
his
one
own,
episode. Yeah.
Yeah, he has his own alternate universe where he
has
another life.
Yeah, we talked about this with Major Briggs, with Don Davis, essentially, like that he's the same character. Major Briggs and Captain William Scully, Dana's father, are the same character when we talked about Beyond the Sea. So essentially, for this purposes of shapes, Deputy Hawk went to took a little break from the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, moved out to Montana,
mm-hmm.
set up a new life and got a promotion as Sheriff Charles Tskany, which is obviously an alias. So, because
he hitched a ride with Leo Johnson on one of his rig drives, and he's just like, you know what, Leo, just let me off here. I have I got a job offer. I'm just going to take it. Pretty much. For the weekend.
Yeah, but Let's just not send him back to Missoula, Montana.
Montana!
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
All right. But, so maybe
Butte.
they're the same guy. We'll see. All right.
Who knows?
At least in our own headcanon, right? So, but I mean, I love that, okay, we got to see, a lot of shows, even if you were going to talk about, have like Native American characters, I got to give credit at least that they went and actually got some Native American extras for this.
Native American actors.
And,
yes.
and, it wasn't just, white guys playing the parts.
Well, Charles, as you know, September for me has been bad movie month. I've been watching a bad movie every night in September. Yes. And that was one thing about my most recent bad movie that I watched, which is Nightwing. And
which I've never seen, by the way.
It's fabulous. It's like I said, it's up there with Night of the Lepus for me. It's just crazy vampire bats that start taking over. It's like Night of the Lepus, it's like The Swarm, it's like Them, it's like all of those movies where animals go berserk. And I love movies where animals go berserk. But this is a movie where the population is Native American, and who are our main Native American characters? Nick Mancuso and Stephen Mocht. Totally not Native American people.
Not really, no.
And as Iron Eyes Cody has shown us, most white people will be fooled by an Italian guy pretending to be Native American.
Well, he's a little dark, so I guess he could be Native American.
It's like, okay, I'm a little bit swarthy with braids. There we go. Give me a job. So I mean, that I do definitely give the X-Files credit for, and the X-Files.
Yeah. And then they also, I think, made up for it a little bit more when they did the Anasazi episode.
I was just going to say that the X-Files definitely made up for it, where you have that storyline where you have the old Navajo people who did the translations.
The code, from World War II.
Because nobody else is going to know that. That's not anything that you can crack. It's not like a number code. It's not anything.
And that was at least actually something that existed.
That was something that existed. That was a real thing, and they had Native American actors come in to do that. Not sure if they were Navajo. I have not looked that up. I haven't even thought about that in a long time. But and I love revenge stories, and it's that Navajo translator guy that sticks it to the cancer man. So heck yeah. That's one I'm definitely gonna have to watch when I get around to that, as we're going through my Blu-ray sets of these. The X-Files, I think there are a lot of shows that their first season gets you hooked in because you start liking characters. Yeah. But then their second or third season, they really find their feet. And like I said before, as much as I loved Deep Throat, I think the X-Files really hit its groove when Deputy Director Skinner shows up. Yeah. So season 2 and beyond, I think it really, really hits its groove. And Anasazi was season 3? I think it was. Yeah, because season 3, end of season 3 or beginning of season 4. I want to say it was like the beginning of season 3, following up from. I can't remember, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to break out the DVDs. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll you can get your expensive Blu-ray set, and I'll open up my cheap but awesome. And DVD set. Takes up too much space DVD set. Yeah. I used to have the DVD set. Well, actually, I still do because I can't get rid of it because it's such a pretty set. So we're gonna be on Hoarders. Pretty much someday. I'm looking around my basement of solitude, and I'm making really good progress on that. I know. Look at our back rooms. It's just books, records, and movies. Yeah. We're going to be on Hoarders not because the city is going to condemn us because we have too much crap in the yard or because we're infested with rats, but because we literally can't feed ourselves because all of our kitchen cabinets and refrigerators are filled with books and movies and albums and toys. Exactly. It's like it'll be Adult Protective Services. Like, why are you eating? I don't know. The fridge has collectibles in it. It's unplugged. I need a room for the Funkos. Okay. Yeah. I need a room for the Pez, so that's why I have to sleep on the floor. Yeah, I'm like Mulder. Like I have, I'm gonna have I'm gonna have to sleep on a sofa because my house is too full of Pez instead of porn. That's gonna be us. Well, that's so that's essentially your predicted destiny by what's his name? Oh, Clyde Bruckman.
Clyde Bruckman. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen, Charles?
I was blanking there for a minute. Sorry about that.
One day I'm just going to wake up and for some reason I'll just inexplicably have a waterbed. I don't know. I think it was a gift.
That's hilarious. All right. So, any thoughts about Jim Parker, Ish, or Gwen Goodsnake?
I think what they did with this episode was a little interesting because it was like kind of a Manitou, which is more of an all-encompassing type of a spirit that can inhabit whatever it wants to.
Yeah.
Type of a thing. I think that helped it make a little more sense that this creature became this white guy.
Yeah, because it wasn't beholden to any particular race
it's not beholden
culture.
to anything.
Yeah.
It's race, culture,
species,
anything. So again, while I feel like this is sort of...
I wonder if its name is Bob.
That would be... See, now that I could get behind.
You see? Nice crossover, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like
the evil in these woods.
The evil in these woods, yeah. I feel like while it is a bit of a... I don't want to say cop-out or... I don't even know what word I want to use, but the idea of just sort of making it up as you go, like making up a monster as you go, I have no problem with that. But sort of making up a monster that has a heritage that isn't yours.
Yeah. Co-opting the legend.
Yeah. Co-opting a legend is a little bit strange, but it explains why, because it's kind of Manitou and it's kind of werewolf because he was kind of bitten but kind of not, and it can go into whatever he wants it to go into, and maybe the Manitou is going into these guys because they are trying to own land that isn't theirs and they're trying to do the wrong things with it, and so now it's trying to get revenge on them. I'm not quite sure what that was.
The motivations, essentially, or the reasoning behind this legend,
right,
is left deliberately vague.
It's very ambiguous, so you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that made the Jim character a little bit more explainable.
Yeah.
And
Lyle was the one who gets taken over. Jim is his father.
That's right. Jim is the father. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I had
right.
that wrong.
That's right.
I had that backwards in my head. I was thinking the right thing. So, the Jim and Lyle characters I thought were interesting because I do feel like tolerance increases with each generation.
Yeah.
So you have this older guy who's probably, learned about, the savage Injuns, as we used to call them in grade school. And so he probably has lived a very combative life where he is, being the white man
right
in this town that has a large, I don't remember the name of their tribe right now because it's fake.
The Tragos, yeah.
The Tragos, yeah. So he's kind of an ass, but his son is kind of a nice guy. He's like, look, we want to settle that. We want to settle this in court. We don't want any problems. We would never do anything to hurt them.
Right.
Where you believe Lyle, but you're like, Jim could have shot that guy. Like, I would have believed that Jim would have shot that guy.
Yeah.
And
well, especially when Lyle goes out, there's a great scene where they're having the funeral for
and he wants to pay his
Joseph.
respects.
Exactly. And he goes out there, and Gwen gets all pissy with him, going like, "Look, I don't want you here." And Lyle's all insistent, like, "Look, I just want to, I feel bad."
Yeah, he feels really bad about what happened.
Right, and maybe he realizes that he was the killer.
Well, and that's the thing, is that they know what they saw.
Yeah.
And so does the tribe too.
Mm-hmm.
They know what he saw as well. That, again, is also a very American Werewolf in London type of a situation where you have the people in the town who know what's going on, but they're not talking.
Yeah.
And even she says it's like they're not doing anything for my brother because they're afraid of a legend. Yeah. And then you have people...
Even the sheriff, knows about it, but he's not really, volunteering information to Mulder and Scully.
And the sheriff is very... he's kind of a cynic. He's like, look,
Yeah.
I do my law enforcement stuff in here, and I keep the ancient ways out there, and it doesn't matter what I believe. I still got to live here with the people who think about this stuff.
And
So
you
I have
guys
to
get to
respect their
leave. I
beliefs.
don't.
You guys get to leave. I have to stay here with people whose beliefs I really need to respect. And I kind of liked that bit of the story, that there's something going on, and because they all kind of know that they're probably telling the truth, that this is probably what they probably know, that this is what happened, because this happens every 8 years, and
so it's happening on a regular basis.
It's happening on a regular basis, and probably Gwen probably was kind of, I don't want to say she was a kid, but she was probably younger and probably not paying attention.
Yeah, but it's at least, you figure 20 years, it's happening at least twice a generation.
It happens every 8 years, is what they figured out.
Yeah.
And so, because even the one guy says, FBI, I'll see you in 8 years.
Yeah.
So I think if the show had lasted,
yeah.
if Mulder had lasted on the show longer, they might have come back to this episode. So,
yeah. But that would have been X-Files season 9. So, but apparently they were busy doing other stuff at that time.
They were doing other things at the time.
Yeah.
So
we're not gonna go back to this episode. So it wasn't that great of an episode.
We're not going to do that. We have enough problems right now with our new cast anyway. So we have, and the Gwen Goodsnake character, I thought was interesting, because she is that sort of, and I think we see this in a lot of different cultures, where you have young people who start out, this is just legend. This is old people talk. This is what my grandma used to tell me to get me to go to sleep at night. And then as they get older and as they see things, they just start thinking, you know what? There's shit in this world that we don't quite know what it is. Yeah. So I think she was a good example of that. And
well, she seems a little bitter. That she, especially around her neighbors, that they're too frightened of these legends.
They're too frightened of these legends to do anything about it. And I sort of got the feeling that the Goodsnake family was kind of a no-good family.
That's the vibe I got too.
Like the brother was kind of a no-good drunk, and
or like and Gwen kind of suffered as a result of that reputation. Mm-hmm. Like maybe she didn't do anything, but because of her brother being more nefarious.
Right,
she kind of got
probably
the
guilt
brunt
by
of
association.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, guilt by association. So you have, so could you blame her for being bitter and
cynical? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't necessarily blame her, but part of me wondered if she and Lyle had hooked up at some time. Like that's why she's so mad at him. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
She's got a real passionate. They got a real passionate anger for each other, and he's get a
little dances with wolves thing going there.
Her family, yeah, there's a good night at that bar. I think that we were not being told about. So that was my story. Yeah.
Yeah. I dated a Manitou. Sounds like a 50s
Next
movie.
on Springer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I married a Manitou from outer space.
I married a Manitou. Nice. That's hilarious.
I'd watch that movie.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. Yeah, that's right. That's good.
Oh, I'll watch any bad movie.
So before we get into wrapping this up, what did you think of the transformation? Because I hinted, talked about a little bit. It's very much like American Werewolf in London. Like they did the kind of, the extending skeleton, the skeleton snaps into place.
They did what they could. I think they did what they could with the Foley.
Right.
But
budgetary, yeah, obviously, where there were budgetary limitations here.
One of the marathons.
It doesn't go full Joe Dante or.
No. That John Landis.
Oh, John Landis. I'm sorry, I don't know why I was thinking Joe Dante. You're right.
Yeah, and please credit where credit is due. Rick Baker, thank you very much.
Exactly, the late Rick Baker. So rest in peace, Rick Baker.
When did Rick Baker die?
I think he did.
I don't think so.
I could be wrong, but
I'm looking that up.
I'm going to look that up too.
He is a retired American special makeup effects creator and actor. Yeah, he's still alive.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rick Baker. I thought you were, I apparently was incorrect on that one. So I don't want to prematurely bury you. So sorry about that.
Yeah, please don't do that. Yeah, he's going to be 70 in December. Okay. So
yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, please don't take Rick Baker away from us prematurely.
Everybody forget about what I just said there. So.
Yeah, don't
Delete that.
He's retired though, so
Yeah.
it's not like he's doing a lot of stuff anymore. But anyway, one of the horror marathons back in the early 2000s, we saw Dog Soldiers. And one of the producers from Dog Soldiers was there and was doing a Q&A, and somebody asked about the transformation scene. And he said, you know what? If you can't be American Werewolf in London, just go down under the table and then come back up as a werewolf. I thought it was really funny. So I think they did what they could do with the Foley and the sweat and the teeth and the extending spine and things like that. So
the hand, extending into a paw, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. That sort of thing. And that is because American Werewolf in London is the gold standard for werewolf movies now. I mean, it was
a game changer. Yeah.
That there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
And even when John Landis did the Thriller video, he tried to do that same formula. He just didn't have the same money. So he but yeah, that is the gold standard, and if you can't be that, then just hint at it, because you can't. Just don't even try.
Well,
don't even try. And when it comes to, in my opinion,
I appreciated they did at least attempted.
I appreciate the nod to it. Yeah. And when it comes to werewolf effects, please just don't use CGI. It needs to be physical.
Yeah,
because it's a physical change.
It looks more natural too, but the CGI is not quite there yet.
Yeah. I'm going to watch American Werewolf in London. Just that scene. I'm going to YouTube that scene when we're done here, because I think I watch it probably once a month because it's awesome. Yeah.
But I just wanted your thoughts on it because I know you love that movie. So
I do. I really love that movie. That is, when asked, it is my favorite werewolf movie.
Yeah. So we wrap things up. They fire on the creature, which escapes. And
of course, Scully is with him when he starts to change, so Scully needs to get rescued.
Yeah, and one of the things that really did annoy me about the script, especially since considering it was written by a woman, Scully loses her gun during the fracas.
What the crap is that? That's like breaking. That's like you can't run in your heels and breaking a heel off when you're trying to run away from zombies.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I was not.
Yeah, so I just like
Scully is so much better with her gun than that.
It's one of the things that made me glad that Marilyn Osborne didn't write any more episodes, because apparently she didn't know how to write Scully, for one, in this episode.
She might have figured out how to write Scully after there had been more Scully episodes. I mean, maybe if she had come back in a season 4 or something like that, she would have figured out, oh, okay, this is a badass, not a sidekick.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people came into this expecting Scully to be the sidekick, and no, they are 50-50.
Yeah, it's a full partnership, definitely.
Yeah, very much so.
If nothing else, occasionally, Scully taking the lead in a lot of the investigations. So,
definitely,
a lot of ways, especially when it comes to more medical investigations. That's where she shines.
And when Mulder is tied down with the black oil in his eyeball, she's got to save the freaking day.
Exactly. Who else is going to be? Krychek? I don't think so.
No, he's already got the black oil, so he can just suck it. Krychek.
Had to bring up Krychek.
Ugh.
Krychek. Oh.
That's how good Nicholas is.
Nicholas who?
Nicholas Lee.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, Holly already yelled at me.
I know. We don't want Holly yelling at you again, so I don't want to get you in trouble. All right. All right. So Scully, even though she was attacked, has to be skeptical about the whole thing. She thinks it's it must have been that captive mountain lion they've got out in the back.
Uh-huh.
And then
you were in the car with him, Scully.
Yeah, and apparently Sheriff Hawk, because I'm going to just call him Sheriff Hawk now.
Let's just call him Sheriff Hawk.
Sheriff Hawk realizes, well, the lion's still in its cage, so come on.
Tell me another one, Scully.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Pull the other one.
Yeah, exactly.
To use a British term. So they leave. They learn that Gwen said, screw this, I'm out of here, left town. And that's where you talked about earlier that Ish cryptically warns Mulder, see you in about 8 years, Agent Man.
8 years.
Yeah.
Agent Man.
Agent Man.
Hey, FBI. I love that he just calls him FBI.
Yeah. Well, he's like, I'm not going to bother you about your names. I don't care. So I'm just going to call you by your title.
I'm just here for one episode. I'm not going to learn.
Exactly. I'm just a guest
Full
star.
disclosure, I'm not going to learn any of your names.
Like, this is just a paycheck job, okay? Yeah.
Seriously, I need to.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder sometimes if, because I know Michael Horse has talked before about the frustration of being the sort of fill in the blank Native American type of an actor.
Right.
And I just wonder if sometimes these actors get these jobs, you know, they're Iroquois, but the script calls for, you know, Nez Perce or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're like, whatever, it's a living, I'll take the job. Like, I just, you know.
Well, I think it's also the same thing, kind of like, I mean, for coming, you know, from a white guy perspective, that it's probably similar to, like, okay, you're, you know, play an Irishman, play a Scotsman, play an Australian.
Yeah. Play an Australian, yeah.
So
it's probably something like that, but I think it probably feels more natural from a white perspective we haven't been marginalized for eons.
That's a fair point. That's
systematically and culturally marginalized.
That's a very fair point. Yes, but
yeah. So I mean, you're technically. I had this conversation with somebody one time.
I'm sure, especially at this time, you know, back in the '90s, I'm sure they were just appreciative for the work.
Or not even just
because
the work,
the roles
but
are so limited.
Somebody's trying to write Native American stories, even if they're making up Native American stories.
Yeah.
At least that somebody's trying to write Native American stories.
Yeah.
I had this discussion when we were talking about where does it stop with actors? You know, do you have to be handicapped to play a handicapped character? Do you have to be gay to play a gay character? Do you have to be trans to play a trans character?
That's a big debate going on right now.
And it's a big debate going on right now, and I feel like in a perfect world, the answer is no. That I should be able to play whatever character element is called for. Now, should a white man play Othello? Never.
Right.
That should never, ever, ever happen.
Yes.
But
should a white guy be Black Panther? No, hell no.
No, absolutely, absolutely not. Should a white woman play Shuri? Never. Absolutely, absolutely never. The same reason, should an Asian person play George Washington? Probably not. You know, that's a historically established person.
Yeah.
There we go. Things like that. You know, if there's some sort of historical element or biographical element, that's one thing. But in a perfect world, anybody should be able to sit in a wheelchair, use crutches, wear green screen tights, and be Lieutenant Dan have their legs digitally removed.
Right.
In a perfect world, that should be able to happen. The same way anybody can put on an accent and be from anywhere. You know, you don't necessarily have to be from Manitoba. You can just put on a Manitoban accent and there you go. That's a perfect world. But I had this conversation talking about gay actors should play gay characters. And I said, that's not a physical or historical or biographical thing. You should be able to just play a character the way the character is written, because you don't have to be the thing your character is to play that character. I said, but at the same time, until I say to you, name me a gay actor who plays a straight character and you can think of somebody after Neil Patrick Harris, we need to keep having this conversation.
Yeah.
Because right now, a gay actor who's famous for playing a straight character is Neil Patrick Harris from How I Met Your Mother.
Right.
And I'm sure there's more that I can think of later, but that's the one that everybody knows. And until we know a lot of them, we need to be thinking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's good. So, you know, obviously this episode, just in the discussion, we talk about, we're talking about some pretty heavy concepts that we're dealing, or issues that we're dealing with right now, social issues.
Culturally speaking, I think, you know, speaking as a white person, because that's what I am.
Yeah.
I think that right now we're sort of churning things up, and a lot of white people are
Uncomfortable?
no, not uncomfortable, but getting their heads out of the sand. You know,
Okay.
really listening and really realizing what's going on around them. And it's a conversation we need to have. You know, we need to not have white people playing Asian characters.
Yeah.
We need to not have we need to not have one race of people that has the hubris to think that they can pull off something like Rachel Dolezal pulled off.
Yeah.
You know, we need to be thinking about that. And I think when it's not directly in your face all the time, it's been very easy to judge. Like all the stupid crap white people have been saying all these years. Well, why are you antagonizing the police? Well, I don't know. I was asleep when they shot me 8 times. What do you want me to do? You know, that kind of stuff. We're having these conversations more. So I think we're getting our heads in a space that is that's not just awareness, but inclusion and
understanding
and empathy and mingling. You know, we're on the internet now, so
well, and
it's not just our neighborhood anymore. You know?
And that's something we talked about.
Our neighborhood or our families.
That's something we talked about early in this episode, because we were talking about how you have to step outside your bubble.
You have to step outside your bubble.
And now that we have the internet, that's happening.
That's starting to happen.
And now, obviously, there's going to be chaos a lot of times as a result of that. But, you know, you're not going to – these aren't things that, you know, in order to have the important discussions that we have, well, you know, there's going to be – I don't want to say casualties along the way as far as the discussion, but you know, obviously there's going to be difficulties in a lot of times because you're trying.
Says in the Godfather, it's like, this needs to happen every once in a while. It helps to get out the bad blood.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes there's going to be a little awkwardness and uncomfortableness, but these are important things we need to talk about.
It's very important things we need to talk about, and the thing is, the people who feel awkward and uncomfortable should feel awkward and uncomfortable, because it's not just a white straight man's world. Yeah. And everybody else is just living in it. We're all living in it, and we all have to respect each other and respect that we're all living in it and that we all have something to offer.
Yep. And I think if you're someone who feels threatened by that, I think you need to start asking yourself, why do you feel threatened by that?
Mm-hmm.
Just putting that out there.
If you still feel threatened by that, you can take a walk. That's the thing. You know, it's just because I have pie doesn't mean you have any less pie.
Right. Nobody's taking your pie. We're just letting somebody else. We're just letting somebody else have some pie too.
We're just baking more pie.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And now I want pie.
And
right.
And Norma, I'm serious.
Yep.
Bring the whole pie. Yeah, there are some people that it's not enough that they have something. It has to be that somebody else doesn't have it. And that you really need some self-reflection if that's the type of person you are.
Yep. So have a slice of cherry pie, have a cup of coffee, and
give yourself a present.
Give yourself a present, exactly. Yeah. Don't plan for it. Don't wait for it. Just let it happen.
Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Just let it happen. Yep.
Right. So what's your rating for this story?
I'm going to put this one at a 7 out of 10 fake tribes.
Okay. That's good.
Because like I said, I like the Twin Peaks vibe of it. I like the performances. I just felt like if you're going to make up a mythology, if you're going to make up something, you might need a little more backstory with it. You know, I felt like this kind of expected us here's this thing, and not be curious about it or not want any more information about it.
Yeah. So either start talking about a actual tribe, where you can actually
Yeah.
do a little bit more deep diving and
Or an actual, and if you're going to make up a monster,
Yeah.
make up an origin for that monster. We need an origin story for that monster.
don't just, screw up an existing legend.
Right. Don't just throw a story at us and be like, here you go, here's your hour, have fun with it, kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
I'm
about you?
a little more generous with you than you on this one. I give it 7.5 out of 10 spooky foxes.
Spooky foxes. That's a good one.
Because that's one of the things that I think it was Ish talks to
It was
Mulder.
Ish
Talks
about
to
his
Mulder
name.
about it. Yeah, it's like, well, you should be like Running Fox or Stinky Fox, and
As long as it's not spooky.
as long as it's not Spooky Fox. So I'm going to go with spooky foxes. So.
That's a good one. I like that.
All right, so we have a lot of mail once again.
Listener mail.
Exactly, the Gmail. So
The Gmail.
coming to life once again. So our familiar 3 suspects writing in once
Fantastic.
again. So our usual email crew. So let's start off first with Holly Mack, a.k.a.
What's up, Holly?
Yep, so a.k.a. Holly from Wisconsin. So writing in once again, hey, Charles and Xan. This time writing, of course, about shapes. She says, an interesting X-Files episode. It was nice to go back and watch it. I don't remember it that much from a few of my rewatches, but the storytelling is very good. I remember the actor that played Jim Parker in the role that he played as a doctor in the TV series Danger Bay in the mid-'80s on the Disney Channel.
Danger Bay. Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, I also forgot to mention that he was also Doc Cottle on Battlestar Galactica, the remake.
Oh my God. That's right.
Yep. So he's Doc Cottle there. Where the chain smoking doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a fabulous trope.
It was.
The chain smoking doctor.
That was great. So Donnelly Rhodes, great actor. I loved Ish's comment that Fox should have been nicknamed Sneaky or Sly Fox. I think she means the like I said, Running Fox or Sneaky Fox. Though I do wonder if Ish's prediction of him seeing Mulder in 8 years ever came into being. Well,
hey, we just talked about that.
Said nope, it didn't. So
no.
I'll wrap.
Mulder, by the time 8 years had passed, Mulder was off the show.
Exactly. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm doing Californication now. So
yeah, I got to do Californication and those Beethoven movies.
Yeah. So I'll wrap it up
And
here.
that Red Shoe Diaries money is not going to earn itself.
No, it will not. I'll wrap it up here. Holly, the lone gun woman from Wisconsin. So thank you, Holly. Always great to hear from you. Second on our list, Jesse Jackson, my co-host on Next Stop Everywhere, my partner in time, writing in, says, hi, Xan and Charles. So look, Xan's getting the top billing there. So
I told you, technically I'm alphabetically before you.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah. That's true. Another good episode, more of a Monster of the Week episode. One of the storylines I enjoyed was that the locals knew more than what they were sharing and didn't want to share with outsiders what might be going on. I'm sure in the seasons
American Wolf in London.
Exactly. I'm sure in the seasons ahead this will happen often. Yep.
I think the people of this town have been eating more than just chicken.
It was a nice version of a werewolf, their wolf. I see what you did there. Nice. Nice.
Their castle.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice nod to young
Jesse,
Frankenstein.
damn your eyes.
Damn your eyes. Too late. Nice nod to young Frankenstein, as I like to call it.
Frodrick.
Frodrick. Their wolf, their castle. Yeah. And
why are you talking like that? I thought you wanted to.
we could do that all day, couldn't we?
We could do that all freaking day long.
I love Marty Film in that movie. He's so damn good. Igor. I do find it a little unrealistic.
Take the blonde, I'll take the one in the Toyven.
Walk this way. No, walk this way.
No, this way. Yeah.
All right. I'm trying really hard to get through this. I do find it a little unrealistic that Scully would have lost her weapon during a struggle, but that's a nitpick.
Thank you.
Yep, that's what we pointed out.
Yeah.
Not as many well-known guest stars this time. Donnelly Rhodes was in the great sitcom Soap. And, of course, the reason you picked the episode, Michael Horse. Yep. I love that you know the theme to that.
I know the theme song to everything.
That's fantastic.
Well, not everything, but way too many things, frankly.
Tune in next time for another episode of Soap. Yeah.
My favorite.
You know, Rod Roddy was the announcer on that.
Yeah, my favorite announcer recap and what's going to happen next week thing was somebody was having an affair with somebody. They're like, will so and so find out? Will so and so find out? Will Benson find out?
Yep.
Will Benson care?
That was one of the. Yeah, that was a great.
I love that one. Will Benson care? And there's just a picture of Benson like just laughing, like he doesn't give a rat's ass about what any of these people do.
They had some really clever moments, or those little teases for the next episode. Yeah, those are great. Jesse continues, I'm enjoying the episodes, and I'm thinking that I might need to work in a few more episodes after this mini rewatch binge ends. Now, keep in mind that Jesse had never seen the X-Files until we started doing these. So,
Jesse, like I said, season 2, you're gonna really get hooked.
We got you. We're getting our hooks in ever so slowly. I give this one a solid 7.5 out of 10. Deodorant strong enough for a man, but made for a woman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that.
That's one of the best lines in that episode.
Stinky Mulder. Well, my deodorant says it's strong enough for a man.
Made for a woman. Yeah. Keep hope alive, Jesse Jackson. So thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jesse.
Great to hear from you. Really appreciate you writing in.
I like that everybody's sort of on the same page with, how the characters kind of went the wrong way in this episode. Because, we had all these... Most of the people in this first season were writing these characters for the first time. I don't think they'd quite gotten the feel of them yet.
Yeah, well, they haven't really figured out the characters yet either. Yeah. They're still kind of feeling their way out in this one.
Exactly. So, hindsight being 20/20. But even Jesse, who is new to the X-Files, is like, Scully wouldn't drop her gun. What the hell's that all about?
Yeah, exactly. He's seen 3 episodes now, and
even he knows that's crap.
Right, exactly. Lastly, as you might expect, we have a certain DJ Nick writing in.
All right.
So he selects his cigarettes and lights up.
He's so dramatic.
I know, right?
He likes to set up the atmosphere.
Exactly. I respect that as a writer. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
Dearest Charles and Xan.
Here we go.
Let me start off by saying that the werewolf genre is one of the hardest styles to pull off without seeming either incredibly ridiculous or just plain cheesy.
Very true.
As much as I have tons of love for the OG Wolfman Lon Chaney, I feel that only twice has this genre truly succeeded. In 1981's An American Werewolf in London, and when it comes
let me guess. Is it The Howling?
Nope. And when it comes to TV, Shapes.
Oh, TV. All right. So he's giving a shout out to this one. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So he's giving it, I guess, some props here. Just my opinion, of course. What is also great about this episode is that it introduces Native American cultural overtones within the X-Files, and as we know, this will play a big role in the grander scheme of things. Probably talking about the Navajos, yeah.
The Navajo stuff, yeah.
And
Navajo translations.
For being TV, the transformation from man to wolf is still among my favorites, and the overall atmosphere of this episode makes it just as good today. I give it 8 out of 10 wolf howls.
That's a good one.
So he likes this one a lot. Stay awesome and evolved. Big hugs and much love.
Thank you, Nick.
What's I guess that's an in-joke?
You'll find out what that means this Thanksgiving.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Your Smoking Man. P.S. Is it just me who thought of the Pipettes song Pull Shapes and Creedence Clearwater Revival's Bad Moon Rising? Apologies for the earworms. Because of American Werewolf in London.
American Werewolf, yeah, of course.
I see a bad moon arising.
I'm still not hungry. For me, this episode kind of makes me laugh. This title makes me laugh because, Nick, here in the States, there is a chain of health club, exercise clubs for women called Curves.
Right.
Where you're supposed to go in and you change stations and you do like a 30-minute workout, but it's supposed to be really high intensity, even if it isn't high impact. Yeah. So it's called Curves. Well, on The Simpsons, they did a parody of Curves, and it was called Shapes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So this
So
episode
there's our Simpsons reference, everybody.
this episode makes me think of The Simpsons.
Take
Like
a drink.
Shapes. Like, wait, did Marge make a lot of money and then Homer get liposuction? What happened here?
So Nick puts out his cigarette and signs off DJ Nick. So
Excellent.
thank you, Nick. Our own cigarette smoking man, our own cancer man.
That's what we've got.
Yep. So
He's much nicer, though.
yeah, thankfully.
He would never have an affair with the wife of the guy whose daughter he kidnapped. He would never do that.
No. Or would he? No, I'm not going to do that again.
Bum, 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 bum.
Bum, bum, bum. So
That's going to be our new joke for DJ Nick forever now.
just or would he? Or would he?
Yep.
So if you want to be like Holly, Jesse, and Nick, and please do.
And
right?
you totally do.
Right. See how cool it is to write in,
Don't you want to
guys?
write to us and then have us tell you how awesome you are?
Exactly, right? It's
You want that.
it's a nice, little reciprocal relationship of love, I think, that
Yeah, exactly.
you give a little, we give a little back.
And you want to relive the X-Files. I know you do.
Exactly. You want to give you want to share your thoughts. So write to us at the Ghostwood Mail at ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
The Gmail.
The Gmail. Ghostwoodpodcast@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Twitter at Ghostwoodcast, or hey, Facebook, Ghostwood the Twin Peaks Podcast, oddly enough. And
we're trying not to be cryptic about this. We want you to find us.
Lately, this past month, we've been doing really well. Our downloads kind of almost doubled per month on this past month. So props to everybody digging our X-Files episodes, and tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and tell your, deepest, darkest enemies. Hey, why not, right?
Attention adults.
So, Xan, where can they reach you in the meantime?
On the Twitters and on the Instagrams as Udinax19, and on the Facebook as Xan Sprouse. And if you want to hear me talk about Oscar-winning movies with DJ Nick and Rachel Friend, then you can find me on the Gold Standard Oscars podcast. And in about 2 years, you can hear Charles with us too.
Just wait. I'm going to be that, that meme from Titanic going, "It's been 87 years."
Yeah, it's been 84 years, but I can still smell the paint.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, your first one is going to be what, 1972 or 74?
Let's see. It's Godfather Part 1, so
yeah, is that 72?
I think it's 72.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then Godfather Part 2 in 74, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, and then not all the way until 1994 for Silence of the Lambs.
1990.
Was it 1990?
94 was Forrest Gump.
I'm misremembering. So okay, well,
1990.
I shaved off 4 weeks. Yay!
4 years. You're
4
good
years.
to go.
Yep. Of course, as for me, at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, of course, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot. Where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here at Ghostwood, including Twin Peaks and X-Files and David Lynch stuff and all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts I do for Southgate Media Group, including, well, hey, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast.
I've heard of that. Aren't you guys going to have like a big episode pretty soon?
Yeah, because we just announced this last night as we recorded Next Stop Everywhere, so it's cool for us to talk about that. Next week, we're going to be recording episode 200 of Next Stop Everywhere.
Fantastic.
And we're going to be talking The Pandorica Opens, The Big Bang, the 2-part Series 5 finale from the Matt Smith era. That was in 2010. And joining us, in addition to myself and Jesse Jackson, essentially we're bringing the band back together. We're getting the band back together. So the crew that we had for Next Stop 150. So a certain Xan Sprouse going to be joining us.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's pretty cool in my opinion.
Yeah, she's
one of my favorite people.
She's an acquired taste.
Oh, I think you're wrong on that one.
Oh, well, thank you, Charles.
I think she's all kinds of taste. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
All right. And of course, a certain DJ Nick might be making an appearance as well. So
I hope he does his Charles impression. I hope you guys have an impression battle
impression
on that show. Yeah.
Dear Charles and Xan.
Yeah.
And then joining us in addition to that is John Takis, one of our favorite special guest companions,
Heck yeah.
our research guru. So everybody do your homework, because
Do-
if you won't, John will.
John's gonna, yeah. So I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the ride on this one and let John bring all the trivia bits out.
Yep. And then last but certainly not least, Christine Peruski, joining us, if nothing else, to give us crap about our rating system on the show. So,
Well, somebody's gotta.
exactly. But we always love Christine and having her on. So,
Yes.
And I'm making a concerted effort to have less topics so we can get through this in episode 200 a lot faster than last
All
time.
right, that works.
But I think it's going to be a great discussion, and I hope if you enjoy Xan and I talking here on Ghostwood, I heartily recommend checking out Next Stop 200.
I promise we won't talk this much. We'll let other people talk too.
Yeah. Although Xan and I might have this tendency to kind of take over the conversation.
No, Xan and you will have this tendency to probably try and figure out a way to work in a Batman 1989 reference.
Oh yeah,
That's our.
You mean the Batman?
Oh, the Batman!
I couldn't
Charles is
resist.
wearing a Batman
I'm
t-shirt.
wearing the Batman T-shirt that I picked up when DC fandom was going on the first time.
Nice.
They had a temporary store, so I snagged the Batman logo T-shirt, and I think it looks pretty cool, right?
That is pretty cool. That's for the
For the new upcoming movie, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of upcoming movies, Charles.
At least until a certain star of that movie got the corona.
Poor guy.
Yeah, right?
Seriously, he can't catch a break. Yeah, but speaking of upcoming movies, Charles.
Yes, that was one thing we forgot to talk about. We were going to talk about the beginning, but we need to talk about a certain trailer for a certain movie that a certain David Lynch did way back in 1984.
Yeah.
Meaning Dune.
Dennis Villeneuve's Dune. Yes, the trailer got released yesterday, and I made my parents watch it. They had no idea.
What did they think?
My mom loves monsters, so I wanted her to see the sandworm.
What did she think of that?
She thought it looked amazing, but I don't think she's interested.
Okay. I can't even show it to my 80-year-old parents. That'd be just like, what is this? What? I don't get it.
Is this what we sent you to college for?
Yeah, exactly.
To read this kind of crap, son?
Do we need to stage an intervention? What's going on?
Yeah, for real. For real.
But Xan, one of the things we were talking about right before we started recording was, well, hey, this new trailer looks an awful lot like the, David Lynch's version of Dune in a lot of ways. And so much so other people have picked up on this. There's a video that I shared on our Ghostwood page,
Okay.
which actually does that kind of, shot comparison between the two.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you'll find it very surprising and actually pretty cool if you're a David Lynch Dune fan like yours truly.
The thing about David Lynch's Dune, say what you want to about it, it's freaking gorgeous.
The visuals were top notch, as you would come to expect from Lynch, because he is a very visual artist in a lot of ways.
Right. And the effects for 1984 weren't where, I will say, Charles, the thing that I was happiest about in this,
Yeah.
I think shield practice looks a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the shield practice.
Well, because the CGI is better, because
the CGI is better. Yeah.
It wasn't so blocky and pixelated.
Right. It wasn't so blocky. Right. It's almost like there's just a little mini force field around. It's the body shaped, and when they move around, it sort of jitters a little bit. And that was my first comment was, oh my God, that looks great.
Yeah, the
Shield
nice smooth rounded edges to the force field. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It looks nice. The sandworms, holy crap.
Right.
Those are amazing. And
we really need to get everybody on the same page on the coronavirus so that we can see this thing in the theater, you guys, because I got to see that sandworm on the big screen.
Seriously. If I have to buy 3 seats in the movie theater, guaranteeing that my seat and the 2 seats next to me are mine, and nobody's sitting in them, I will do that if I have to. So
it's worth it to you.
Yeah, and I don't know much about Timothée Chalamet or Zendaya as actors.
Zendaya, yeah.
Oh, is it Zendaya? Okay,
I think it's Zendaya. She was Mary Jane in the recent Tom Holland Spider-Man movies,
which I have not seen, so I don't know much about them as actors. But based on this trailer, they look like they're doing a fantastic job.
Right.
And Timothée Chalamet has a lot on his shoulders because Paul Atreides is a huge part of this story. And he grows as a character. He does like a 180 as a character. He has to do a lot of changing and a lot of character arc in evolving. Right.
Yeah.
So I think, it looks like he's doing a good job with it. And he looks the age. He looks like he could be 15.
Right.
Which is
that was one of the things that a lot of the fans of the book were saying that in Lynch's version, in the 1984 version, that Kyle MacLachlan and
Sean Young,
thank you, that they were too old for the parts because they should have been younger.
As much as I love Kyle MacLachlan and Sean Young, that's one of my only complaints about that movie is that they're too old.
Yeah.
And when you have a situation like that where you have a book that you're coming off of, it's really hard to not want to see what the book described.
Right.
But in things like this where you have the Kwisatz Haderach, who is this 15-year-old messiah, basically, you kind of have to stick with that. Like, I remember another Kyle MacLachlan movie that came out recently was A House of the Clock in Its Walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
which I haven't seen, but
it's lovely. I love those books. The Louis Barnevelt books by John Bellairs are fabulous. They're really near and dear to my heart. And the female character, his best friend, is a little girl named Rose Rita.
Yeah.
Who I loved growing up as a kid. And in this movie, she's not wearing glasses. And that was just like, I'm like, that's not right. So
that's kind of like me when I was watching the Hitchhiker movie, going like, I know Douglas Adams was part of this, but I'm like, Marvin shouldn't look like this. Marvin should look more depressed and not so cutesy.
He was adorable. So I think, you definitely have, you get 5 original books of this, and God knows how many books by his son we go from after that.
Brian Herbert with Kevin J. Anderson, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it does a little bit better with that, and everybody else just looks fantastic. I think
Jason Momoa looks really great as Duncan Idaho.
Oh yeah, he looks fantastic as Duncan Idaho. Josh Brolin, I love Patrick Stewart,
right? But
Josh Brolin has taken more punches in his life, it looks like. So I think he's a better fighting coach, looking fighting coach. And oh my God, Dave Bautista as Raban looks amazing,
doesn't he? Just like
he looks he's so fantastic.
The Beast Raban, and
we don't see much of
Baron Harkonnen.
Baron Harkonnen.
No,
but what we see looks like it's going to be fabulous. And
didn't they do that shot where he's kind of coming out of the blood pool?
Coming out of the blood pool. Yeah. That's about all we see, and then we see like a kind of in shadow profile of him, and we do not see Peter DeVries in this.
No, we didn't. But we did see Dr. Yui.
We saw Dr. Yui.
And we saw Oscar Isaac as
the Duke Leto.
Duke Leto Atreides, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it's going to be great, and it makes me want to talk Lynch's Dune now. I mean, I really want to talk about this, but
well, you know what? When we're done with these X-Files episodes, that's something we can do.
Yeah, and we'll just have to give Xan some a lot of caffeine or Jolt Cola or something to keep her awake.
Toto. It's their relaxing score that is what does
Toto.
It to me. Damn you, Toto! You know what else I'm realizing I didn't see in this movie?
And obviously, we would talk the theatrical cut, not the horribly extended cut.
Not the Alan Smithy cut, yeah, please.
Not the narrated cut, yeah.
We all have jobs. We don't have time for that. Yeah, there's no fade in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just realized that there's no fade in here. At least nobody that they've talked about yet.
That's true.
So
I don't know if they've cast it. I'm sure they've cast him because there has to be that.
Oh, I'm sure it's done. I'm sure they're just putting.
Yeah, I mean, and then again, this is just the first trailer. We finally got the first trailer for this.
Yeah,
so.
And they're probably just not giving us a lot of information because they don't want to. Yeah. They don't want to. They want too many spoilers.
Yeah, but as someone who's obviously a huge fan of David Lynch's Dune and someone who's a fan of the book, I'm really looking forward to this.
Me too. I'm a fan of the book. I'm a fan of David Lynch's Dune, and I'm a fan of Denis Villeneuve. So
exactly. So yeah, as a fan of Blade Runner 2049, Arrival. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it, and hopefully we get some more Dune movies as a result.
That would be sweet.
Says there's a lot more to talk about.
Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about.
So in the meantime, though, thank you guys for listening. Thanks for putting up with our nonsense. And keep watching the X-Files.
Keep watching the skies.
Keep watching the skies. Next time on Ghostwood, episode 84, we're going to jump ahead to the second season of the X-Files at long last.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 20, as we discuss Humbug.
The best.
One of my all-time favorite episodes of the X-Files.
Yes.
With Michael J. Anderson, who, of course, known to Twin Peaks fans, the little man from another place. But here, he's got a little bit of a different role in this one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm just going to leave it there. So it's a great story. Great story.
Yep.
And especially if you're someone who loves, like, say, Todd Browning's Freaks.
Hell yeah.
You'll dig this a lot. If you haven't seen this one, I think you'll enjoy it.
I think Jesse's going to be. I envy Jesse getting to see this one for the first time.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the X-Files classics.
Oh, it's in the top 5 best episodes of the X-Files in the history of the X-Files.
So, spoiler warning, I'm probably going to give it a good review.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems pretty sure. So, everybody, again, thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting the show and sharing the links and telling your friends. And then come on back next time. We're going to talk Humbug. I don't think I have to sell that anymore, do I?
Nope.
Because
nope.
If you've seen that episode, you know what I'm talking about. So we'll see you next time right here at Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast. Goodbye, everybody. We made this.